What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the obviously awesome Dr. Disaster, and it's become extremely easy to spot a video game made by a studio in the West as opposed to video games made in the East. All you have to do is look at the female characters. If those characters look burly and manly, then you know damn well that Westerners, influenced by the HR department childless cat ladies, they were the ones that made it.
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman.
That is what the average Western female character looks like, whereas in the East these days, they are still permitted to make characters that look like actual females. There are tons of recent examples of this. Stellar Blade was a smash hit from the East, featuring Eve, who looks like an actual woman. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is coming out in a few weeks, and that game features a regular-looking female character. Marvel Rivals was made by a Chinese studio, and it showcases Marvel characters like Squirrel Girl, Black Widow, and Invisible Girl, and those female characters portrayed by the East all seem to say,
"Yes, I'm a female. It's probably been a few years since you've seen one."
This is a phenomenon that we have been talking about around here for a long while. Feminists like to push the ugly female character into games because they despise the so-called male gaze. And they want to prove that the male gamers who essentially built the industry and who have sustained it for decades, they want to prove that we are not needed. That's why we see examples like Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws, where they intentionally took the nice-looking gal who plays the character and they made her ugly. I use that example a lot because it's funny how poorly that game sold, despite the fact that it's a Star Wars title. But another image I use an awful lot is the reimagined version of Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark.
You're ugly!
Look at the difference here between the old version of the character and the new. The old one was decidedly feminine. She was awesome in a Lara Croft kind of way, but this new one is basically just a dude in a wig. But now we have news from Microsoft that among all of the Xbox layoffs that are taking place now, the entire studio that was working on this new Perfect Dark game called The Initiative, they have been shut down. And Perfect Dark is canceled. It looks like they got the memo. Gamers took one look at this very fugly design and said,
"Where are you taking this thing?"
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I've begun uploading some content over onto Rumble as well, so make sure that you follow Dr. Disaster on that site too. Also, give me a follow on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster 1. I keep a list on there of games lousy with wokeness pinned to my account at all times for your reference. But alright, let's talk about this cancellation of Perfect Dark. Now, there are a couple of ways of looking at this cancellation. First of all, you could look at the fact that The Initiative was formed all the way back in 2018, 7 freaking years ago, and they still didn't have this Perfect Dark game ready to go. And they haven't put out any other games in the meantime, mind you. This was the only game they were working on. It was supposed to come out in 2025, but it kept getting pushed back further and further, and it's not like the studio had anything else that was pressing them, that was preventing them from getting this done. And besides that, they were teamed up with the devs from Crystal Dynamics of Tomb Raider fame in order to get this game made. But even with all of those resources and all of that time, the game was not done. So you can easily see why, when Microsoft was deciding that they had to make cuts, you can understand the reason that this studio was eliminated. These people simply were not producing. On the other hand, I also think a major contributing factor is how much pushback the industry has gotten against the very type of game that they were making at this studio. This reimagining of Joanna Dark would have gone over like someone pissing in a swimming pool. Everyone would have run away from that shit. Look at games like Dragon Age the Veilguard, Concord, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws. Games that embrace this feminism and progressivism are not selling well, and the primary reason is because gaming is a male hobby and males do not give a shit about progressive politics. Now, if you want to count the little apps that people put on their phones, things like Candy Crush and Solitaire and things like that, which people use to kill time when they're waiting at the dentist's office or something like that, then sure, gamers are probably an even split between males and females, if that's the sort of thing that you're counting. But if you're only counting people who buy gaming PCs or consoles and then spend actual real money on software and controllers and things like that, well, that is massively skewed towards dudes. I've often shown this data from a Nintendo survey where they discovered a few months ago that 86% of their users on the Nintendo Switch are dudes. Feminists may hate this fact, they might want to screech and howl and cry about it, but no matter how hard y'all try marketing this hobby to girls, they just aren't getting into it at the same rate as males, not even close. So pushing characters like Joanna Dark here for ideological reasons never made sense. And make no mistake, it was always absolutely ideological. The feminists out there think that it's somehow empowering for them to have a female character succeed without looking good to the males. They think it validates their existence somehow, as if women need validating. They don't, of course. Women and men are quite different in a lot of ways, being good at different things, but both are extraordinarily valid. But this feminist notion that a woman is only valid when she behaves like a man is actually extremely denigrating to womanhood, and this shit needs to stop. Character designs like this, like Joanna Dark, appeal to nobody. Proper marketing would be to make Joanna Dark look like she used to. She's pleasing to the eye for males, and the girl gamers out there can aspire to be like her. One other thing I want to point out, though, about this game not being made anymore is that it means that the work that this jackass right here has done has been completely scrapped, and I find that hilarious. This is Colby Payne, a level designer for Perfect Dark, and he has said some pretty stupid shit about gamers. He wrote this a few years ago on social media, saying that anyone who complained about Angrabata in God of War Ragnarok was a racist pig. Never mind the fact that it was jarring as a gamer to have a black person suddenly pop up as a god in lily-white Norse mythology. This dude here just hates anyone who pushes back against their progressive woke narrative. And here he wrote, though, if adding female protagonists to video games is all it takes to make the worst people you've ever met not want to play them, we should add female protagonists to every game. You can see how ideology takes precedence over gaming with this idiot. You can see why this game, Perfect Dark, didn't end up being completed. But anyhow, in this post here at the bottom that you can see there, he wrote, "Gamers were a mistake." This is the caliber of person working on Perfect Dark, so it is certainly not sad to me at all that the game is finito. Microsoft sees the way that the culture has shifted away from them and their beliefs. They've seen the failures of other like-minded games. They've seen things like last year's presidential election, and I think they can see that they needed to simply cut their losses with a project like Perfect Dark. In my view, this was a win for the CHUDS, but I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your mockery of these bozos that were designing Perfect Dark into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.